Okay, episode 5. This is my third recording because they all wind up being an hour long and nobody got time for that. Here is the level 3 mage character that we've been playing, and in the previous episodes we covered really anything between the initial 10 minutes up to an hour of game. You're a new player, but you kind of already know what to do, so you set up the game in a way that is easy to play for you. It will help you do the things that you want to do, and you're now ready to go into the dungeon. You're now looking for monsters and objects, and you now need to know what is it that you need to go do. Which monsters, which objects. There is one specific strategy that we're going to use. There are others. In my experience, this is the best one. Is the one that allows you to win the easiest. There's people that go all stealth. There's people that try to go based on turn count. To me, Deep Descent is the best strategy there is. I'll give you the reasoning why. We'll see if it works for you as well. Now, once again, because I absolutely suck at being a good tuber, I do not know how to edit videos, or maybe I do, but I don't actually care to do it. I've just made a text file, and I'm going to read it through you. Here's the text file. Don't worry if you're not reading it right now. We'll go through the some of the history of Angband and what these things actually mean. So the biggest advice that you get from people when they say, oh, in order to play Angband well, you should get some things. The first thing that you should look for is free action. And they're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, if you remember, when we did play just now, we found an item feeling of 3. I said, well, normally free action is level feeling of 4, but it's based on the value of gold. In that particular case, it was 3 scrolls of Deep Descent, which are fantastic. Total value of about 750 gold. Gloves of free action would be about 1,100 gold. We're still going to go down and look for those because you will need them. Everybody needs them. They're very easy to find. There's no point in risking it by not having this very basic item. It's like your steering wheel on a car. Well, maybe not, but you know the point is that it's a very basic safety item. You really should get it. They will also tell you you will need resistance, so any object which is called of resistance, like an amulet of resistance, or a leather armor of resistance, or a small shield of resistance. And ideally, you also want to resist poison. This is old advice. It's not bad advice. It's also true that these are also things that are very common to find. They will come often before you need them. When in an Angband there's these elements that you will be attacked by. You can always have, obviously, monsters that hit you with melee, but you do have acid, electricity, fire, cold, and poison, and then also light attacks, dark attacks, Nexus, Nether, Sound Shards, Chaos Disenchantment. And these are considered high resists, and these are or low resist, whatever. The point is that these are different. This block here is different from all these others. The way that if you have resist acid lowers the amount of damage from an acid attack is different than the way that a nether attack is defended by something that has resist nether. You get 1/4 of the damage if you have the resistance for the element. You do not get 1/4 of the damage. You get a random number. So these basic resists, they resist more, but also monsters that use them tend to have higher values. There's nothing strange with seeing a dragon that breathes like 600 damage of electricity. They have higher values, so you do need those. It will come. Normally a leather armor resistance is something you're going to find very early on. It's great to have ESP. You can replace EXP with detection. Ignore this bit, I added on later, I'll explain what it is. These are things that you can get. You can get ESP. ESP is great because it shows you monsters without you needing to waste one turn to cast detect. But even if you do not have it, casting detection is not terribly risky. Even in the most risky situation that we're going to put you using the deep descent tactic. What we're looking for is speed and something that gives you intelligence and scrolls of deep descent, of which we already have 3. Now, I do need to explain that back in the days in Angband, you would only get speed in chunks of 10. So a potion of speed gave you +10. Boots of speed gave you +10. A ring of speed gave you +10. Cobra Goal, the crossbow, gave you +10. Everything gave you +10. There was no +12 or +5. And because of this, and also because they were all down to dungeon level 90, the monsters that were created, they have their own speed rating. We've looked at that before. We said they move quickly, they move very quickly, they move lightning fast or blindingly fast. Those all represent a score. And the monsters were kind of balanced in their speed to the fact that most people would not have anything that gives you a speed bonus until like at least dungeon level 70. But that doesn't happen anymore. Now there is something called fractional speed bonus, and so a ring of speed can have a lower or higher rating than +10. You can find a ring of speed +9. You can even find a ring of speed +5 or +17. If a ring of speed can be generated with as low as +5, it's actually not too difficult to find it a lot earlier than dungeon level 90. But in our particular case, we really want to focus on the fact that monsters that move fast don't really move that fast compared to the way that a player can move fast in modern Angband. And we are going to exploit a particular item called the Ring of Escaping, this one here. Again, something that has changed considerably in Angband is that once upon a time they used to be cursed objects, and these were very dangerous. Most of the time, if you found something that was not identified, used it, turned out to be cursed, there was a good chance that your character was dead. Your run was over. There was really no practical way of undoing the curse, and the curse was massive. So if that happened to you, game over. Together with all these really, really nasty objects, there was also another section of objects. There was junk, and then there was objects that were not bad, but they were kind of disappointing. You know, if you find a ring of strength, for example, or a ring of damage, they're not great objects, but they are an upgrade. It's a plain upgrade. You now have +3 strength. You can carry more. You hit more often. So, flat out upgrade. Instead, these were objects that were like, alright, well, one of these is the Ring of Escaping. Now, the Ring of Escaping is something that, as the name implies, has been designed to escape. Let's put one on and see what happens. Okay, look at this beautiful. Oh, look, I am moving fast. That's very good. Oh, look, I go kill this monster. Oh, and I'm trying to attack the monster. It says, whoa, you are too afraid to attack the singing happy drunk. And if I look at this, it says, makes you afraid of melee. And also, worse, at shooting and casting spells. It absolutely sucks. So, why is this in the game? Well, there is a reason why it's in the game. It's called of escaping. Let's say that you're a warrior and you all of a sudden walk into a room, read a scroll of light, and you find that there's a whole bunch of extremely angry orcs and they're charging at you. Well, they all move at 0 speed, the same that you do. You just need to really run away, and if you had a touch more speed, you could easily escape. Exactly. So they created this ring, you put it on, or maybe you put 2 of them on, and you whee! Now you can run away a lot faster. However, because as we discussed before, the monsters in Angband are designed with the fact that speed bonuses don't really exist until you're very, very deep. You now have +8 speed. And if by any chance I can also create a potion of speed, I mean, you already know this because you can do basic math, but bam, you now have 18 speed. Potions of speed are very easy to find. You can find them at level 1. And you absolutely should have a bit of potions of haste, which we use that symbol to call. Back when ASCII was still the main way of playing the game, the only way of playing the game, that symbol, exclamation point, kind of looks like a vial. So they use that for potions, the same way that that symbol sort of looks like a scroll rolled up. So that means a scroll. That if you're looking at the forums or you're reading an old documentation from Angband, those symbols mean that's a scroll of recall. That's a scroll of banishment. That's a scroll of mass banishment, and so on. So we really are looking for 2 rings of escaping. In this game, you can also find rings of intelligence. Those are great. You really should go for escaping over intelligence. You can do 1 and 1, although preferably have 2 of these and 2 of these, and switch them around depending on what you need more. Now, the ring of escaping does have an additional problem. It makes your magic worse. So if I take that off, at character level 28, it only takes 100,000 experience points to get to this level. It's not difficult. Your teleport other skill is 35%. If I wear one of my rings, my teleport other has gone to 50%. If I wear the second one, again, it doesn't stack. You still have the same one-time penalty to casting. This will be relevant. Another thing that we are looking for is potions of stat increase. Now, I did something on the other videos that you probably already know. It can be explained later on. Experience points do make your character more powerful, but really it's the stats that make your character powerful. So you want these where it says self to go all the way to 18100. Ideally, all of them. But for the mage, the most important one is intelligence. You really just need that one, and all the other ones are secondary. Strength doesn't need to be high, provided that it's not low. Constitution, the higher it goes, the better it is, but really intelligence is the one that you want. And you want to get to the point where it's capped, and here where it says best, instead of having a number, it has those 3 asterisks. That means it cannot go any higher, so fantastic. In order to do this, you have only two means in the whole game, one of which is potions of stat increase. They are aptly named as the strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, and constitution, plus augmentation that bumps everything. But these only really start happening at dungeon level 30. They say the drop is native, meaning that when it generates at dungeon level 30, it doesn't need to do a item generation roll where it's creating something that's deeper than it should be. Still, you're not going to find many of these at dungeon level 30. You really should be at dungeon level about 35, maybe 37. And at that level, they do come out more consistently. If you get to dungeon level about 45, you get a lot more of them, like noticeably a lot more. However, there is something important to be noted, which is that, and this is your first big hurdle in Angband. Now, back in the days when people started coming up with strategies, they would basically, they will write a text file kind of like this, and it'll say, "This is my advice on how you beat the game." There was people that went all on stealth. There was people that went on turn count. A lot of people, like myself, will go the dumb way. They would say, "Well, if the stats are the most important things, and I can start increasing my stats from dungeon level 30, why would I go to a lower dungeon level when there's even more risk, when I can just stay there and basically just grind?" And a lot of experienced players would tell you, "Well, no, don't grind, because if boredom sets in, boredom can make you make mistakes." But the concept isn't terribly wrong. You do, you stay at the lowest level of risk that you can, but at the same time still permanently increasing with your stats. You don't really need to do that. We're not really going to go grinding for potions of intelligence. Generally, with this tactic, within 1 day of playing, you will either the character's dead and you need to restart, and if it's not, you will probably have enough that the next day you can sit down in front of Angband, easily get it to dungeon level 97, and start looking for the really overpowered stuff. So, yeah, maybe it's not 100% safe. No tactic in this game is safe, but you will get more winners. And you can always slow down. You can always say, "This looks too risky. I do not want to do it." Now, I'm not going to explain in depth the mechanic that I did, because once again, I don't want a video of 50 minutes long, but essentially you have these stats. They go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 16, 17, 18, and then from 18 they go to 1810, except that they don't. Because of a weird change that they made, when you jump from 18 to above 18, you will earn more than 1 point. Simple as that. Only at the beginning, but you can gain 2 or even 3 points of intelligence. So, this is the test character. I will create What is it? Z and intellect. You've got the other ones. The brawn raises your strength but reduces something else. We are looking for intellect. Alright. 3 potions of intellect. Once again, this is I've just casually created a level 28 character. The reason why I picked this level is because it's easy to get to character level 28. You can start casting Teleport Other from level 23, but it really doesn't take a lot of experience to get to level 26, 27. Generally, here is where it really starts to take a lot of exp to go up yet another level. And you start to slow down, and it's frustrating, and frustration makes you make mistakes. But if you've stashed these things, if you have these things, you will be able to go from early stages of the game to end game almost ready to win. I drink 1 potion of intellect. Actually, my intelligence is 17 and I have 57 spell points. I drink a potion of intellect. It's now 18, and from 57 then go to 64. Okay. I drink another potion of intellect. It's gone up not by 10 points, by 19. Actually, this is a very small roll. I expected something at least 20 points. And from whatever they were before, it's gone to 71. I will drink 1 more. Every time I do this, I lose 1 of the other stat points. You feel very clumsy. I lost a point of dexterity, but now I get another 11 points, 18, 30. I have 99 spell points, okay? With the Rings of Escaping, my Teleport Other has gone down to 47. In addition, there's other things that will really bump this up, and they're really easy to find. For example, a Helm of Intelligence. You can get a Helm of Intelligence even on dungeon level 1. And they're not even, great objects. So to find one of these is super, super, super easy. They even spawn in the armory where they sell for like 500 gold. That is nothing. We will put that one in. And then you can find objects either of Slay Demon or of Slay Animal. When they have that little asterisk there, they will give you a bonus. And it is +2 intelligence. And we're going to take that. And now, my character that had 57 spell points now has 155 and has a 35% fail rate on Teleport Other. Yeah, this is not great, but you can still be careful and cast a spell maybe a couple of times and pass. You really should stop thinking about being, at dungeon level 30 and start thinking about being at dungeon level 97. We have these massive one-shot kill mobs that you have no chance to resist whatsoever without having endgame gear. Even if you do have the resists, you don't have the hit points. But you're in a place where even the junk that you find on the floor is fantastic. Potions of experience, potions of augmentation, rings and boots of speed, everything, artifacts, bows of Lothlorien, all things that you can then exploit because they're really strong just by being, having a little bit of judgment on what you're going to do. So the general plan is we are going to go into the dungeon and we are going to look for free action, I suppose resistance, but, we're not terribly worried. we already have detect monsters, so we don't need to do anything. We are going to be looking for 2 rings of escaping, and ideally also 2 rings of intelligence. I wrote +3 because this is a common bonus, but they can be higher, they can be lower. We'll see what we'll find. These are very common. You'll find a whole bunch of them. Another bit is the artifact lights. Artifact lights really do tend to spawn between dungeon 27 and 28. While this is debatable, if you do look at a spoiler file, it will tell you what the minimum level is for an object to be generated. The game can break its own rules, but if you are within that particular depth where the object spawns, and the game is trying to spawn an artifact, it will very, very likely spawn that particular one. So, torch. Also, another thing is that the standard artifacts that exist in the game under the standard artifacts file, they're kind of boring. They're not great. As someone said on the forums, I would rather have a lantern of true sight rather than having the vial of Galadriel. And I was like, that's blasphemy. The vial of Galadriel is, well, Galadriel here, Galadriel there. It's like, dude, the vial of Galadriel does nothing. It just does light. The lantern does P-blind, resist blindness, and it makes you see invisible. So, yeah, you need to carry the oil to stick inside, which is annoying, but it's a better object. And they were not wrong, but Randarts almost always would be substantially better. Like, this lantern resists chaos. It doesn't really do anything else, but chaos, when it's endgame, it's not a resist that's easy to find capped, and it's great. It's great to maybe even just keep it at home and slot it in if you need it. The Vial of Imrast, these are completely random, the names, the stats, and so on. +4 dexterity. Just this +4, it's a high value. If you look at the standard artifact file and you look for things that give +4 to anything, you're not going to find a lot. It's a high number, so great. Wooden Torch Targaryen, +2 strength, resists Nexus, holds life, sustains your life force. These are great things to have. It also activates for Phase Door, which is kind of useless. It gives you things like resist lightning and cold, which you will have by the dozen when you're deeper down. But it's way, way, way better than what you would get from other forms of light. Arkenstone obviously has the default Arkenstone activation that maps the entire level, also gives you +2 intelligence, also gives you see invisible, and regeneration, why not? Another lantern that has +2 to strength, again, resistance to dark is kind of redundant, but they're good. They're good. And then you get stuff like, the amulet, which gives you a whole 5 points of intelligence and a little bit of damage bonus. Why not? And so randomized artifacts, it's the way to go. They generate better stuff. They also generate junk, but you discard that. You find something that's horrible, you just throw it out. So our goal is to get to dungeon level 27 and 28. When we get there, we will scum. It's called scum because back in the days when you were playing Angband on a server, it was considered a scummy move because it was the 90s and computers didn't have a lot of computing power, and what you did with scumming was actually affecting the other players as well, so that was a scummy move. And what you do is you get to the stairs, and you look for that number to change. And you go up and you go down. And you go up and you go down. And you're really looking for a value of 5 or above. Level feelings is another thing that can take half an hour to discuss, so we're going to need to skip that one as well. We want to get to this depth and only this depth because, once again, this lantern, okay, minimum level 9, that's great. Minimum level 22, minimum level 24, these are dungeon levels. Minimum level 28, minimum level 21. We really want to be around 27 and 28 and just look for level feelings of 5 to 7. If it's higher than 7, start the detecting obsessively or even just leave. Even 7 is a high risk. You're not going to find many of those. Most of them will be 5 or 6. There is no guarantee, but there's a good chance that you will get an artifact light if there's a good drop in there. So our goal is to, as we said, we're about to ready to go in the dungeon. What is our goal? Yeah, we want to kill more guts, but there's a bit more work to be done. Well, it's to go and get for these specific things. Rings of Escaping, Potions of Intellect, Scrolls of Deep Descent, Weapons of Slay Demon or Slay an Animal, and Helm of Intelligence, and Free Action Gloves. We do that, we should have a character that has sort of in the range of 130 spell points when we're ready to go. As you see, that's 155, it's a little bit better. We should have 25 to 35 teleport other. This is, remember, this is where the high risk starts in the game. You really do not want to go there. And we want to get what we've just described, and we want to stash about a dozen of Deep Descent scrolls. Right, so that's what we are going to do. We're not going to do it now. I've reasoned that if I just sit and play Angband, they're going to be very long videos. I've seen other people do Angband videos. They're extremely boring because the interesting stuff happens in a fraction of your playthrough. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to play on my own. When I find a situation that's interesting, I'll record that snippet and I'll do a voiceover for that particular snippet, explain why it's important, give you a summary of what I've been doing before. Obviously, if at any moment something important happens, like a monster drops an artifact, I will save that bit as well, explain anything outside of the normal play, and ideally that way we'll manage to have videos that are still within watchable length, 20 minutes at most, but you will still get the most important bits of the information. That's it, and who knows, maybe you'll get another one later on today. Bye-bye.